Delay ads are important. That's good. Let me refresh on my own page here. I'll send you a new link in a minute here. This is exactly what I didn't want to happen. All right, we are back live again. I don't know if we're on the same live though. No, we're on a new live. We're on a new live. I'm gonna send you over the live on Facebook.
Okay.
I can't do it on my computer. It's too complicated. I mean my phone. Hey Jake, everything's good to go, you said? Yours is good, Hunter, by the way. Like all your image and stuff is all good. All right, sorry guys for the thing. I had to go back and change some settings to make sure that I was capturing his audio and my audio and all that jazz. And I know the looks fuzzy on my end for sure, but we should be good.
Good on my end, yeah. Let's see. Cool.
All right, we are live streaming. We got 6 people on. Where is everybody from? And let everybody get back into this new one. Sorry, that was a little confusing. I think I ended the old one. That is the other thing. Let me delete that forever so nobody gets confused. And hopefully this won't happen next time. All right, all is good. Hey, Charlie, we got 10 people on. So, sorry for all the confusion. I'm trying new software so you can see my face and the other beautiful face on the other side. With Tight Bite Tackle LLC, and you're at a Concord, New Hampshire hunter class. Him and I met, was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago at the Milford show?
I think 2 years ago now. Yep, 2 years ago in March.
All right, yeah. 2 years ago, and I'll never forget Hunter and period. He's like, "Oh, I know you. Can we take a picture?" I think you're the first person to ever ask for a picture from me. Which my wife's like, "Your head is so big now because somebody asked you for a picture," which doesn't normally happen. People just kind of like bullshit with me and do whatever. So that was good.
Yeah, you kind of walked over and I'm like, I think that's Josh from Bendit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no way. And I saw your hat and I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. You're all over the internet, so.
Yeah, I try to be as out there as much as I can. So yeah, Hunter, he had a booth at the Milford Dome, which that shows what in March, right?
Yeah, this year it's March 8th through the 10th.
Yeah, you're gonna be at that one too.
I'll be at that. Yep.
Yeah, and are you going to the big Massachusetts show?
I'm gonna go to one in Springfield. I'm not gonna go to the other show, the same company. I'm gonna be at the Springfield show in February, the Milford show in March, and there's also a smaller Concord show. That's the beginning of March as well.
Is that the Sportsman one, or is that the Made in New Hampshire show?
So there's a Sportsman one. It's at a Trinity Church. It's free to everybody. It's free to vendors, free to people.
Oh, that's sweet. I did hear, but I think I was busy last year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's small. It's nice. You can kind of create relationships. The Springfield one is new for us this year. It's been around for quite a while. That's a Sportsman show. And then always the Milford one is great to meet people as well.
Yeah, I'll probably be at the Milford one for sure, and then I'll probably be at the one in Mass for. I'll be there with Circle Tackle, I think. We'll see
Yep.
see how that's going. Nate King says it's going to be a short season for upstate New York and Adirondacks, and we got someone from Sebago and Ware, New Hampshire. So we got a few people on. Like I said, sorry for the confusion there, but let me post that I'm live right now.
Hopefully the weather will come around here pretty soon. There's a couple memories a couple of years ago of me fishing last week, and it's nowhere near this year.
No, nowhere near. And I have put on probably, it seems like 3,000 miles on my truck in the month of November and December looking for ice. It's
Wow, that's a lot.
it's a lot. It's a lot of gas money. That's the biggest thing. I don't really mind, doing an oil change, but the gas money. Luckily, gas prices are low. But I made it out every week since the end of November so far.
Yeah, if you can travel for ice, the best thing is to do it yourself because, especially with the lack of ice, you can never go off of what somebody else is saying. It's
Yeah.
not safe for anyone.
No, and I can show you my phone right now, the amount of messages I get on a daily basis. Hey, I don't want to have your spot or anything. I don't want a honey hole. I just want to find some ice.
Yeah.
Go past the notch. That's like all I can tell you.
Yeah,
You're going to be at least see some ice. I'm not telling you how much there is on the ice or if it's safe. It's just there's going to be ice up there. So.
yeah. Yeah, a month ago, though, I saw a bobcat crossing some ice in Concord,
Oh yeah.
but that was a month ago. It's completely gone now. It's waves and wind again.
Yep, I was up in Washington, New Hampshire yesterday, dropping off my son
Yeah.
for to hang out with Grammy, and there was ice on a pond, and then today there was no ice,
Really?
just
Yeah.
like that, just because it's nonstop freaking rain. So
Yeah, 2 years ago yesterday, I was fishing in Oshawott, or the weekend. So in Washington 2 years ago, we were fishing, which is crazy. The season's getting shorter and shorter for sure.
yeah, and I told Ryan and my cousin John, who was on not last week's, the weeks before, Woods and Weeds, that I'm gonna keep my boat out for the very last moment, and we get that 3 or 4 inches of snow, and I actually de-winterized my boat
Oh,
last
boy.
Friday, and this will not make it on YouTube, guys, because we didn't catch any fish. Ryan and I bundled up. I was actually warm, he wasn't, and went around the bandstand multiple times with the trolling motor looking for burbot, because technically you can open water fish for them right now.
Yeah.
So we fished for 3 hours. We gave it a hard 3 hours with live scope, and then the bay actually locked up with ice while we were out there, and so I was just smashing my live scope off of ice, which was not fun. So frick that.
No.
We packed up and went home.
Yeah, there's gonna be some hungry trout once ice comes around, which will be good, but
Yeah.
the bait's gonna be taking a hurting. It's already getting eaten now, for sure.
Yeah. My plan is to go up to. I'm packing already to go up to Pittsburgh on New Year's. TJ's bait up there. He released some ice reports. Hopefully everything stays in the next 4 or 5 days, or
Yeah, it looks
3
pretty good
days.
up there.
Yeah, I haven't checked the weather, but let's talk about. Well, I try not to do this like interview style, but we just kind of like talk about ice fishing. When did you get into ice fishing?
So I'd say probably ice fished. I would say, I'd somewhere around 12 years ago. I mean, as a kid, I went out with my uncle. So we kind of started from there. My stepdad took me out. We started off small ponds, never really trout, more pickerel, kind of fun game fish, bass. Not really smallies either. It kind of grew from there. I mean, tip ups. I've always been around tip ups, which is funny to hear. Some people never use them; they just jig. There's benefits
I
to
never
both.
used them. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I like using them because you kind of can figure out an area without drilling holes and putting everything down a hole.
Yeah.
So I kind of got into there, and ever since I've been old enough to drive around and do my own thing, it's kind of expanded. Technology has come a ways. You're not carrying a 45-pound auger now. You're carrying a 4-pound drill with
Yes, exactly.
a drill. It makes it so much easier, for sure.
Yeah, and even since I've started, the price of a hand auger was like $100, and now the price of an electric auger. I mean, it's still $400, but they last for freaking ever. the technology has made it more comfortable on the ice because no one, people like ice fishing, but everybody I talk to is rather be out open water fishing.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I mean, I wait all year. I mean, I love trout fishing. I love trolling. That's
Yeah.
my thing. But once it comes ice fishing, it's kind of like it's relaxed. I think it's a lot more relaxed because you're not worrying about a boat, wind, rain.
Yes.
You can be just there. You can sit in a little bob house and kind of just enjoy being out there and hopefully catching fish as a byproduct.
Yeah. Just chill out there, and I kind of have no chill. I got to keep moving and going, and that's one of the reasons I have the snow dog and hate the fact that we don't have freaking ice because I want to go out. I mean, if we had 3 inches and 19 mile 2 days, I'd be out there freaking drilling holes. Like it was last year, and everybody stayed home because everybody said, "Oh yeah, there's no safe ice in Winnie," and I was out there drilling holes and catching lake trout.
Yeah, if you put the time in, I mean, I wouldn't say quote unquote a fair weather ice fisher. I don't want to drive. I don't have time to travel looking for it.
Yeah, no, I get
But
it. Yeah,
if you put the time in, like you have proven, if you put the time in, you get rewarded most of the time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still fishing, but it's a good way to learn. I mean, you can learn so much by mistake. I mean, I think that's one thing I kind of learn the most about ice fishing is yeah, you can run the bottom, you can run the top.
yep.
The fish are going to be where the fish want to be, and you sometimes you forget where you put it, and it's a new thing. It depends on the day, honestly.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we went out in the boat the other day, and obviously we had live scope, and we're fishing 30 feet right off the north side of the bandstand, the gazebo right in the middle of the water. For people who don't know what I'm talking about, in Alton Bay, and we saw multiple big Lakers. I mean, to over 2 feet, which is decent size for Winnie. Yeah, definitely over 2 feet Lakers, and they were 5 feet underneath the water, just cruising. They
Yeah.
weren't salmon either. Salmon are freaking darty and fast, and these guys were just chugging right along. And we knew what they were, so we not supposed to cast to them because we're not supposed to be targeting lake trout, but we definitely were around them and probably saw like 2 burbot. It just wasn't happening. Not worth the time.
Yeah.
All right. What about the bait company? And
So the
Go
bait
ahead.
company started off. This will be 3 years coming up, so relatively new. I bought some. I troll, like I said. My family has a camp up in Rangeley, and I mean you're trolling all weekend. That's what you're doing. Brook trout
Yeah.
only. There is some char there. Supposedly, I mean, might have caught one or two. It's kind of difficult to tell.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I bought some tackle from a company in Maine. They look pretty good, and I got them. And I'm not going to mention the name, but I just got them, and the quality wasn't great. They just used lure tape, and they cut them off before the D rings. So it's very easy to
Yeah.
do that.
yeah,
So basically, lure tape, it's just a sticky piece
sticker,
of
right?
vinyl.
yeah.
Which they do have their application if they're done like they should be.
Right.
And I kind of got them, and I said, these aren't worth what I paid.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what, I'm gonna just try it out, and I bought a little makeup airbrush, rechargeable one, and I said I'm gonna try to do this. I watched some videos, and everyone does it different. It's
Yeah.
hard to learn if everyone's doing it different, and I kind of just started doing it. And from 2 years to now, it's tenfold different. What I learn every day. I mean, even 6 months ago, I have a technique that's different than what I had 6 months ago versus now.
You gotta keep improving, right?
You got to keep going. It's improving. It's figuring out what's working, and listening to people is another thing. So I mean, we've grown up. We blew up. I mean, we kind of did. I mean, we did expos. That was kind of a new thing when we were pretty new still. When I met you,
Yeah.
that was my first expo.
Oh, really?
And we did good. It's kind of scary because I mean, as you know, fishing industry is not cheap.
No.
So trying to get in, the biggest thing is you're spreading your word.
Yeah.
Everybody can put a worm on and catch a fish, and you can buy them for a lot cheaper. That's another thing that is kind of different as far as you know. Because I do a lot of airbrushing. It's expensive. It takes a lot of time. If the humidity's too high, the clear coat. I mean, just a bottle of clear coat to do 100 lures is over $80.
I'm in the same boat, man. I got freaking tungsten jigs and all sorts of stuff that I bought a bunch of wrong stuff. I burned plastisol. I've thrown shit away.
Oh.
I burned plastisol the other day, like a
Yeah,
freaking
the
rookie
black
mistake.
donut of death in the microwave. Yeah.
Yeah, that freaking thing. I whipped that plexiglass thing. I mean, the Pyrex right outside. I'm like, I'm not.
You
dealing with
smell
that.
it for a week and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, lucky I'm in my garage. But yeah, it's. Yeah, people don't realize how much work goes into this stuff, and your stuff is definitely not on the cheaper end. And I've seen like spoons and stuff like that. That you know that you hold something, you get it out of the package, and you look at the hooks, like that thing's gonna freaking bend out instantly.
Exactly.
And
I
that's
mean,
just not
everything
worth
happens.
it.
That's the thing. You got to buy quality. I mean, it starts even with the D rings. You need stainless D rings, split rings, I should say.
Yeah.
Like we use all VMC hooks, which it really depends what you catch. If you're catching a pike, if you're catching something in the wrong end, stuff's gonna break. I mean, the biggest thing is if you're mass producing 3D printed lures, it is gonna last longer than something that's painted because it's just a different construction, especially things with teeth.
Right.
Pickerel, bluefish.
It's just gonna get destroyed. Even Lakers destroy stuff. Surprisingly.
Yeah, it's kind of you gotta evolve. And the biggest thing is people do understand what me and you do, but some people are like, I can buy that for a third of the price. That's fine. You can go buy it. It's from China, wherever, mass produced. But being able to make it your own thing. Recently, I launched I came up with a design. I wanted a flutter spoon. So the spoons I used to buy blank. I didn't like how they swam. I want them to sink slower, kind of tail down versus head down. So we kind of put
Okay.
some money into that. And we got our name on it, but it's different. It's custom. We
Is
make
that
them
that
here
new
in
silver?
Hampshire.
I'm on your website now. Is that the silver and brass one?
Yeah, I have a couple of them. It's gonna be hard to tell. Like this is all brass on this side,
Yeah.
and then you'll have our logo on this side.
Nice.
Sutton spoons. One cool thing I'll always remember is my first expo. And every expo after that, I met these people. It's always Friday. It's these 70-year-old guys that have been fishing for longer than I've been alive.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They kept bringing up Sutton spoons. Everybody said Sutton spoons. Those things worked awesome. And it was a plant that did plating, but they closed down because they were on a river. So I tried to come
Dumping that
up with
shit
a
right in the
solution.
river.
Exactly. So this one here was a requested one. So it's brass on this side,
Yeah.
but it's silver on this side.
Yep.
And for some reason, they were hooked on that, as well as copper. Copper on one side, silver on another side. So it's kind of adapting. And I talked to those people for probably over an hour. Don't know
Yeah.
if I sold anything to them, but the amount of knowledge that they told me, I mean, you can't put a price on it. Just like you, I mean, you've learned, you started from somewhere, and where you are now, it's
Yeah. I mean, I learned, I knew nothing about lake trout at all, and I went from getting skunked on Winnipesaukee. Before I had a boat, skunked on Winnipesaukee 4 times in a row. I mean, I caught like a perch, like a yellow perch, or a smallie by accident, to putting a whole pattern together and learning from Will Lazar, saying like, you just gotta use like little tiny baits, like they're throwing up and they're eating little tiny stuff. And people, not to bash on bucktails, I see you got bucktails next to you. You know, people are using, like, if you watch any sort of YouTube video about lake trout, it's from Canada. And they're
Yep.
using 6-7 inch tubes that are this big. And we have lake trout that size that I've caught in New Hampshire. So it's just like a different mindset. But yeah, you get it. And I hope, subscribers get the same thing. People that have watched me, we've got 20 people on right now watching the content, which is good.
Yeah, it's adapting. I mean, you go to the expos just like you, and you see people, not bashing anyone, you see people selling $400 12-inch swim baits. That is, if you think about it as a fish perspective,
Yeah.
you gotta be triple the size to eat that. You're cutting out 70% of your population, I would say. It's a lot. So, I mean,
yeah.
You use a 132-ounce jig with, I make these little soft 2-inch plastics that go in the back. And I mean, you're catching pickerel, pike. I mean, you're opening your range to anything. Just like you said, even mini tubes. I've seen mini tubes. I've even seen flies. I've seen people use flies for Lakers.
Oh,
I
they troll them. Why wouldn't they? I mean, I think, and correct. Let me know if you believe in the same mindset. So I've been a fly fisherman for years. Fly fish. I learned how to fly fish before I learned to spin cast. That's because that's all my dad. My dad's one of those people that you hand him a spinning rod and he reels it upside down because he just doesn't know how it works.
Yeah.
Like he's just a fly fishing, not a purist, but that's what he does. And it's not always like match the hatch, it's match the profile. Like a parachute Adams, a caddis, like you're matching the profile on top of the water, underneath the water. That is the biggest thing. Like even small baits have to match that pin smelt that we have on aluminum stocking. Now there's different lakes that have bigger smelt, like Highland Lake and Andover have freaking massive smelt.
Yep, I 100%. Yeah. Cedar Lake's the same way too.
Yeah. I would use a bigger bait in that lake if it had lake trout in it, which it does. It just says brook trout in it, but that's my opinion, and that's why, matching that profile. And a bigger fish will always eat something small. They won't always eat something big. That's my other opinion.
Exactly, I 100% agree with that. And I mean, I do bass fish. I mean, in my opinion, trout have personalities. Bass are fun to catch. I mean, you catch a 5-pound bass, you're having a time. I always see trout, especially, honestly, ice fishing even a little more. I mean, if you're sight fishing using a camera, or even their actions if you're holding a jig pole. I mean, they have personalities. We were trolling, I was trolling with Songo River guide, Dan Hillier this May on a lake trout tournament. He's an awesome guy, good friend. He's doing it for fun with us. And we were using had a fly rod. We were trolling with a fly rod, and to catch even a 14-inch salmon, I mean, on a fly rod, if you're doing a lake, hate to hate on lake trout, but when you troll with them, they fight for 5 seconds and then they're just laying there.
Yeah, they play possum.
Yeah, so I mean, it's fun. Like a little salmon. I mean, you even caught it, I'm sure. They're darty. They're like action.
Super crazy.
And you compare salmonoid like that to a bass. Bass are always fun. I mean, but I think the trout species in general have kind of a different characteristic to them.
They do, and they can be complete arseholes if they want to be. And someone just asked, Welcome Richardson, what do I use for lake trout here in New Hampshire? My favorite bait for Lakers is this little tiny guy right here. Trying to keep it on my desk. 7mm tungsten jig with a 2-inch little plastic. Actually, this one's been cut down because I was using it for crappie. And there's like 2-minute delay. I think there's a 2-minute delay, or it's 30 seconds or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I've messed with a lake trout for probably, I think, 5 minutes on camera before I got him to eat.
Yeah.
Not on camera, but on live scope, like literally going up and down, up and down, up and down, and especially with live scope, especially on Champlain, where there's a school of fishes, like 5 or 6 fish, and they're all 6 to 8 pounds, 10 pounds. One is just super hungry, and he'll come rocketing out of nowhere and just tackle it. The other ones are like, "What's up?" And they just won't eat.
What's that?
Yeah, like what's that? I don't care.
Moving. What is it?
Yeah, they won't even bother.
Yeah.
And I started my channel. It used to be called Bennett Bass Fishing. That was my original channel name. I changed it a year or 2 ago, and I started it to do bass fishing. And my love was fly fishing, and then I got into bass tournaments, and that was it. And then I moved around a bunch, and now I'm changing it to ice fishing and lake trout, which I wish I didn't pick ice fishing at this point, but is what it is.
Yeah. It's definitely a good thing. I mean, even just the amount of people that I brought into ice fishing, I mean, just friends like, oh, I've never done that. Like, it's kind of weird to step on ice. So you get those people that hear ice move when it's expanding and they dart. It's like, I get it's scary, but it's cool to bring them out on that because, I mean,
yeah, for sure.
Everyone just thinks it's cold and it's not fun. I mean, there's a place we go near Northwood, and there's no trout, but it's Flag City. I mean, you're going to catch 30 flags a day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun. I mean, versus a trout pond, say Winnie, not technically a trout pond, but where there's trout there, you might not have as much action, but what it produces can be a lot more rewarding, which you can definitely see that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've had probably like a best day ice fishing, and I don't know if I've ever spent. Probably the best day on Winnie ice fishing is probably like 11 trout or something like that, which is a good day.
That's a good day for a trout.
Yeah, it's a really good day for trout. Like that was probably the best, and that was like last year, the year that it really froze. Not last year, the year before last. And then open water, it's 20 fish, something like that. And that
Yeah,
was
it's crazy. It's if you can get on them. I mean, that tournament we did good. I think it started at 6. We had 2 on the boat. They were both salmon right away by 6:05. I mean, the biggest fish we caught that time was a salmon.
yeah.
I mean, it was big. It was about 4 pounds. It was definitely good size, and it all depends. Like you said, ice fishing versus freshwater. It's definitely different. I love trolling. I do it all day. If I get skunked trolling, it's different than if you get skunked ice fishing, in my opinion. But I mean, I'm a big advocate for spoons. I mean, even little ones. We use 2 and 5/8 inch spoons.
Yeah.
Like I do this little fire tiger pattern. It imitates a perch, kinda. And in my eyes, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily see a perch as a target fish for something else eating it, but the perch are everywhere. Perch are in every single body of water. If you have a bass in it, there's a perch
Oh
there.
yeah, there's a perch in it for sure.
So you can definitely target shiners, or anything like that, smelt. But kind of opening it up. I mean, even just gold, it seems to produce every single time. I mean, not necessarily looking for size wise, but I mean quantity. I mean, you definitely notice something different. And people don't love spoons in the winter. I mean, they say, "Oh, that's kind of trolling stuff," but the way you can make it kind of move, you can have a lot of kind of action with a spoon. You'll get a flash.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's all they're kind of looking for sometimes. Like you said, one could dart out of nowhere, and 6 of them. I have videos of on my camera of fish sitting there for literally 4 or 5 minutes just looking at it.
Yep.
If they don't want to go for it, you're not going to entice them. You could drop. It's like dropping a lizard on a bass bed. I've done that, and you're supposed to bite it, and they hit the back of them, and they do nothing.
Yeah, they want to push it out of the way. So one thing I did see, I was in a pond in New Hampshire, or a lake trout pond in New Hampshire, and I put down a Magnum. I think it's like 2.5 ounces. It's for stripers. It's like a big ass flutter spoon. I think it's like 6 inches or so. Silver on both sides, shad style spoon. And I'm like, I'm not seeing shit. I'm spot locked on a really good spot. I saw a couple fish. I dropped that thing down, and with live scope, you can see refractive light. So you can see how much light that spoon is throwing out. Like it actually flashes on the sonar. And some like 2 big MFers, lake trout, just came screaming into the air like, what is happening? So if I'm not seeing something for a while, I'll either get a spoon and I'll pound bottom with a spoon, usually a Castmaster or something like that. I actually don't have any of your spoons. I have some of your soft plastics, but none of your spoons.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to update that.
Yeah. Yeah, pound that on bottom, and that just throws light in the area. I mean, most of my stuff glows in the dark, which is great in the lower light in the beginning of the day, end of the day. It does help in the daytime too, because it glows green and all the way down.
Yeah, it makes it stands out for sure.
Yeah, adds that little hot head to it. But I've been thinking about adding a spoon to my mix, a jigging style spoon. I just haven't. I got 2 new products that have been in my garage for like a month, and I haven't added them to my website because I've been too effing busy. Just a different color, same style.
Yeah, jigging spoons. It's all. I mean, some we do obviously trolling spoons. It's going to be lighter. Our 2 and 5/8 is pretty light, but it kind of just swims on its own. But then you have heavy ones. You'll have I have a 1 3/4 that's double the weight as a trolling spoon. So it's all how it goes. It's all how you want to pretty much work the water column. It's almost like using a spoon is kind of like a football jig in a way. Depending on how you're manipulating it is how you're fishing it.
Right. Yeah.
And like an inline spoon, I have an inline spinner. I make those now. It's if I don't know what I'm throwing in the summer or what's biting, if you throw that out, an inline spinner has caught I'd say almost every species you can find in New Hampshire almost. I bet.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
it's just the attraction. You're trying to get an attention, and if it gets irritated enough, it's hungry enough, it's gonna go after it.
Yeah, it's just like an intrigue or reaction bite.
Yeah, so I mean, sometimes mimicking bait fish isn't always. I mean, because a spoon, does it see it's a bait fish? It could. I mean, you're looking at a profile of fish. They're silver, kind of flashy. The way their eyes look in certain lights. You're just trying to find out what they want, and it could be different every time. The thing with smelt, when you get smelt from a bait store, if you look at them wrong, they die.
That's why I don't
mean
use
it's the end
live
of the
bait. I
So
say
I
the
mean, I'm
same
not really
thing.
an avid. Yeah, live bait. I mean, even in the summertime, I've caught. It was last summer we were brook trout fishing, trolling, and we ended up with like 21 fish in 3 days, and not
Jeez.
one was on live bait or even dead bait. It's
Yeah.
But sometimes you use spoons. It's a blue, or just like when you're ice fishing, especially like cusk and stuff. You could be using something bright. You could be using something duller.
Yep.
You,
I'll
you
switch
gotta
from.
match.
So I have white. I only do three. I only do four colors. I do white, white glow, pure glow, which is like clear, off tinge, clear glow, which is green, and then I have chartreuse. And I really stopped using this full chartreuse in the ice fishing because fucking the damn salmon smoke it every time. I'll drop it down like before it even hits the bottom. A salmon will freaking smoke it, especially off like Alacoya and stuff like that. Multiple
Yep.
times, I'm like wrestling a freaking salmon trying to get back down the hole.
I do a chartreuse bottom. It's a split. It's a 2.5 inch stinger they call it. It's chartreuse on the bottom with purple,
Yeah,
and that does really well. I mean, crappie especially. But I've caught salmon. I've caught lake trout on them. It's all trying to figure out what they want. Like salmon, when they're hungry, they're almost like a pickerel when they're hungry. They're gonna get it.
yeah,
It's what you're catching.
yeah. They're gonna tackle it. So what is your top? You have them on your website now. Is it? What is your top selling product? Top selling like part number?
So for ice fishing, I sell tenfold the most. It's a 132-ounce ball head jig with my crappie stingers. They're 2 inch. They should be on that site. There's like 4 different colors on there.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
looking for the jigs. I'm on like the everything page.
if you go, should be a drop down for says like ice fishing.
Yeah, I'm in there now.
Yeah, it's just a simple ball head jig with a sickle hook. Um, and we powder coat them. They're all glow. I do 4 colors, primarily orange, chartreuse, and
Except the red hook, right? The VMC.
correct. Yep. So I do
Okay.
red, and I do this year. I'm throwing some mustard in there too.
Yeah.
Because mustard, I mean, I use a lot for my other stuff as well for my football jigs. So pairing up a small 132-ounce jig, I try to do color wise. So I can do white. I do a pearl white and red flake soft plastics right on the back of it.
Nice.
And I mean, the way the tail, it has so much action and not even in the water, but holding it. It's a great replacement for like say a mealworm or depending if you're looking at a minnow color or a smelt.
Yeah.
The way the shine mica powder in the water, it does wonders if you can add some
Yeah.
glow to it.
Yeah. So that's mine are all. I don't use like drop coloring. I use powder for my pearl. It's just straight plastisol and then pearl. Giving me my recipe.
Okay.
Pearl for that, and then glow powder for the other one, and then for the chartreuse I use coloring for that because it just cooks easier. I was using powder,
Yep.
but it was freaking burning easy. So
Yeah, for my I just did a clear. I just poured them. I should have grabbed them. But almost like a clear pearl, and then also has it's a red flake, but on the bottom it's a green. I'd say green pearl, slight green.
Yeah.
But when you put that in water, it stands out for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you pair that with one of the white ones, I mean, if you're trying to match the color, I mean, I do a shad color. I do everything. Sometimes I don't list it, because I can come up when I'm sitting there with bottles making colors. Something pops, and I couldn't maybe have tried it. It was by accident,
yeah,
and it's a new color. So for this year, we're really expanding. Soft plastics are nice. They're not too difficult, but you can do a lot of different combinations with it.
yeah. You can do
Um,
a ton. I purposely, because I have the YouTube side of the business, the editing side of the business, I still do consulting work. I'm like, I'm gonna do 4 colors and that's it. Like I'm not having all these SKUs and everything is made to order from my end. I don't make stuff ahead of time.
Yeah, that's the same for me. And everybody orders at once. It's good.
Yeah,
But-
they do.
Don't stop, but it's a lot if you're doing. I mean, because everything doesn't happen as planned. Like you said, burning plastisol. That doesn't ruin just the plastisol. That ruins the whole cup for like 3 days.
It's well, I heated something and it was remelt, and then I'm like, oh, I'll just put it in for 2 minutes, should be good, and then I freaking burned it, and then I put something back in there and it still burned when it shouldn't have, so I didn't scrape out enough of it and just coagulated at the bottom basically, which is mildly annoying. But is
Yeah,
is what
yeah.
it
For
is.
ice fishing, I do those little jigs in those crappy plastics, and then just a basic spoon, a Fire Tiger, Wonder Bread, and a Red Eye. It's just a white with red on it.
Yeah.
Those would be my four pretty much go-to designs for ice for sure. Especially for trout. They love flash. They live a little bit different. Wonder Bread, that color has been around forever and produced. And it's a very, I even had a request for a moldy Wonder Bread. I said, what's moldy Wonder Bread?
With green
And it's
spots.
just, instead of chartreuse, it's more green. So, I mean, tried and true kind of, that's like a Red Devil pattern. I mean, they work.
Yeah.
Some stuff like that works.
It's just, and I think, a big part of that is I just listened to a podcast about a muskie guy out in, in Western Canada, basically. And they were saying, like, why don't we use big spoons for muskie? Like, well, we just don't. We'd rather spend, $60 on some Medusa giant muskie rig, and then the client will be like, oh, we're not catching anything, so can I try a spoon? And they'll freaking throw a spoon out there and they'll catch a muskie. They're like, what? Like, it's just
Simple stuff sometimes.
yeah, just a simple change, I don't know what it is. But I do want to add, I want to add a jigging spoon to mine. I have a lead core trolling rod. I still have yet to catch anything on it. I've tried probably a half dozen times. But I want to go to Champlain, which is a little easier.
Yeah, downriggers. I mean, if you don't have the access to downriggers, depending on what you got for water,
Yeah.
I mean, lead core line with a leader with, a spoon just like that. I mean, I've caught hundreds of fish. Sometimes simple works. I mean, electronics and stuff are nice. But I'll tell you what, sometimes when you can see the fish and they're not coming at it,
Yeah.
it almost ruins it.
Yeah.
For sure. But I'm an advocate for spoons for sure. I mean, I do a lot of it. I've even caught bass off spoons.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Some of the elite
it's
guys
all-
use flutter spoons for bass.
Yep.
Uh,
And there's so many styles of spoons, like you were saying, casting spoon. I mean, different weights, different shapes, different faces to catch the water differently, and
yeah.
you can do a whole lot of different. Paint them, you can powder coat them. There's advantage and disadvantage to each. Everything's but water based, and you're in the water, so it's kind of difficult to keep up with that too, for sure.
Yeah. Other than that, you're gonna use powder coat and enamel and all that stuff is, some of it's toxic, right?
Oh man, I mean the clear coat I use is not the best for sure. But I had a little sit with 2-part epoxy, and it was actually for the last expo in Massachusetts. I had probably about 50 to 100 spoons ready to go.
Yeah.
I epoxied them, they look great, and then they fish-eyed. So
Oh.
fish-eye, basically, if there's something there, it can be a quarter of a piece of dust, and everything runs away from it.
Just inflows, right?
And it's hard to fix that. And now, I mean, I got this much product that you're messing with. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The issue is with metal. I do probably 70% of my stuff is spoons.
Right.
And anything to do with metal has oil on it at some point. So oil is the enemy. Even if you
for
clean it,
sure.
I'm 90% alcohol. Painted, so it's already painted, so it's already covered. It still comes through. Sure, I might use it again. Soft plastics, you don't obviously need it. But hard plastics like jerkbaits, crankbaits, some of my swim baits knockoffs I do alternative baits. And I mean, it all depends on humidity. It's like soft plastics. You gotta heat that up. You gotta find a sweet spot in everything.
Yeah, like I said, I burned a bunch of stuff. I was using the wrong thermometer for a little while, and then my garage is like today. It's super humid in there, so I take stuff, make it, bring it inside, let it cure fully before I can ship it out. People order at once. I had 1 week. We were just messing back and forth about it. I had 1 week where it's like I got 4 orders every day. And I'm making an order, and then I'll ship those out, and then the whole next day everybody comes in.
Yeah.
And everything I made to order. So now I put one on my website. I have 2 running right now, which kind of sucks. I said everything ships out it won't ship out in that same week basically, unless I'm caught up, which doesn't happen.
Yeah, like I said, I'm upfront with people. This, I would say from November to now has been nonstop for me, which is great. But yeah, it has to cure. Even talking about paint, I mean, if I paint it, it's got to sit by itself, and then once you clear it, depending on the humidity, it could take 4 days.
Yeah.
If we could live in like July to September, everything would be that much quicker. But even soft plastics, they gotta hang, they gotta do their thing, because if not, you're not gonna have a solid bait. Or even if you're like these bucktail jigs, my first year doing them, and they're difficult, they're fun to do, but they still gotta carry. You got cement head that goes on them just like a fly.
Yeah.
And Christmas was a huge thing. I had people getting to me, hey, I need this for Christmas. It was Monday. It's like, all right, I can probably make that work. I got tackle shops and everything orders going, but it's trying to rush things. It's not assembly line, just like you know for sure.
No, definitely not. Hold on 1 second, Hunter. Everybody's saying that there's echo on their end. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna put in headphones and see if this fixes it or goes away. Let me know if you guys can still hear me or not. All right. You can talk, Hunter. Yeah, I don't know if the software is going to pick up both of us or not.
There's a mess up.
Yeah, all right.
It's all just learning.
That thing didn't work. Give me 1 second here. I gotta adjust one more thing.
Yeah.
It's always something. I figured there was an echo. One of these buttons turns down the volume.
And soft plastics are definitely a man's best friend because you can reuse them. A mealworm doesn't work too long. That's why I came up with that stinger bait. Mealworms work great. I mean, they definitely catch fish, but using one at a time and they die and do whatever they want to do. If you can use, I sell them in 10 packs and I sell the 132 ounce jig in 5 packs, so you can get quite a bit of life out of those for sure.
Yeah, that's more than enough. So I sell the paddle tails in 10, and then I sell the jigs individually because I'm buying them at a discount, but not like a wholesale price. I'm trying to get rid of the tungsten and switch over to lead-free style, like Damiki style heads, because the looks are just better.
I use bismuth.
Yeah, this one's a tin bismuth.
Yeah.
And he's trying to add in something else to make it not so brittle.
So there are different, you can get high temp depending on what you're doing. So like the stuff I'm using is high temp versus what I was doing last year. And I mean, you still lose some stuff because I'm using a heat gun to do powder coating.
Oh, really?
And if you heat it up for 2 seconds too long, your jig's on the floor because it melted. Honestly, lead, I get the aspect of lead and not using it. But as a bait maker, and as a consumer, prices are different and working with it's harder. Maine's a little different. Maine, you can legally fish with it if it's painted, which if I'm a loon, I'm going to eat a painted piece rather than a piece that looks like a rock.
I thought that wasn't the rule. And I thought that was really funky that it was painted. Vermont had the same rule, but it was based on size.
Yeah, that's like New Hampshire. So if it's an ounce or bigger, you can use lead.
Yeah,
I believe. But yeah, Maine. So if you have a jig that's not powder coated or painted, you can't use it. If it's painted, you can use it. I would rather eat something shiny than a pebble.
I agree. And it's funny. I met the guy who was at the meeting when that rule was put in place. And what he said was like, he stood up and says, "Where the F do you think the loons go during the wintertime? Because they don't stay in New Hampshire. They're eating lead in South Carolina. They're eating lead in Georgia. Wherever the frick they fly to, they're not just New Hampshire. But this is where they spawn. This is where they spend probably most of their time. And so all my stuff is either tungsten or lead free, which was when I moved to New Hampshire, it was the hardest thing. It's like, I want a jig for lake trout. I want a stout hook, and I want something that's decent. And finding a good tungsten that's not composite tungsten, because you try to heat up one of those things, they also suck. Someone asks us, do you use jawjackers a lot? Do you use those better than traditional traps? I'll answer that. I'll ask Hunter the same question. I use jawjackers a lot, but I use the automatic fisherman snappers, and I do not use normal tip-ups because I did not learn on them first, and I don't like carrying around live bait. And I'll give
I'm opposite. I mean, I've used jawjackers. I know people swear by them. I haven't had great luck with them. I mean, I would rather almost, if I'm taking the time, I'd rather have tip-ups. I'm used to tip-ups. I can kind of cover more ground easier. I'm definitely not the guy. I mean, if you're getting no bites, I'll definitely move. But I have live bait. I got an aerator. Like Josh, he travels very light and efficient. He can move from spot to spot at pretty much a snap. I'm kind of like a camper. I'm kind of invested in the one spot. I've used jawjackers, yes, but I like using tip-ups with a jig rod. I mean, so if I can move around and a tip-up is producing more in one spot, maybe I'll go jig in that spot. Just like white perch. Perch are great. Once you get in a school of them and you have tip-ups, you lose a dozen fish in 5 minutes.
Right.
But jawjackers, they definitely do produce. I mean, you got to pay attention to them for sure too. You can't really. It's not. People think sometimes they're set and forget it. Set and forget it, and sometimes you're losing your whole setup.
Yeah. No, I've seen. I had a rod almost pull out from the broodstock brookies this year, and then after seeing underwater footage of the brookie of a rainbow stealing my freaking worms off the jawjacker without hitting the hook. So, here's the hook, and the worm's dangling down here like this. That freaking rainbow would eat just the bottom of the worm, yank it right off, and then leave without even touching the hook. I'm like, so you gotta just like traps, you gotta go check on them and like, oh, this hasn't got eaten in a while, and it's because there's nothing on there.
Yeah.
And I have heard. I just got a question recently. It's like, do you use? Actually, it was from Maine Trout Whisperer. He's starting to get into jawjackers, which hopefully I'll have him on either next week or the week after. He was actually sick today. Do you use just normal octopus hooks, or do I use jigs on my jawjackers? And I use octopus hooks. But come to think of it, if you put a jig on there, a fish still might eat it because it's got mass to it. It looks like food compared to just a plain hook.
You still have a presentation. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe I'd try that. I think fish would throw a jig easier if there's not upwards pressure on them compared to an octopus hook.
Now, what are your thoughts on? I mean, I know everything's different without giving anything away. So I know you're definitely lake trout you target that.
Yeah.
Some people look for sandy bottoms. Some people look for vegetation. Some people look for humps. What is your experience with kind of water structure when you're doing ice fishing for lake trout?
So when I'm on Winnie or any other lake in New Hampshire specifically, there's two different places I look for lake trout. Structure, so a hump would be my ideal thing, which is underwater mountain, which you guys have heard me say on a bunch of videos. That's one type of structure. The other type of structure is ledges, right, or inside turns. So those are still structure as one. The other type of structure is a school of smells, and those can frickin' be anywhere. For the most time, they're in middle of bays, and they're just roaming around. They're just kind of like pushing around. Usually get pushed by Lakers. So if you walk out in the middle of 19 Mile Bay, which is the first one that locks most of the time, I'll just pop down live scope, push it up to 200 feet, and pound around. If I don't see any bait within 200 feet of me, I just leave. So I always, if there's bait there, I'm staying there. If there's not bait there, I'm going to go find a hump that might have an ambush lake trout on it. And this is what I found in the last 3 years of fishing Winnie and a bunch of other New England lakes. There's two different types of lake trout. Ones that are sitting and waiting to pounce for stuff to come by. They're on physical structure. And then there's ones that are chasing smell all day long, and that's all they freaking do until they fall asleep. And even when they're in the night, they're still doing the same thing. But Ben Chase just placed an order on your website, by the way.
Awesome, thank you.
He says thank you. It was a little slightly delayed, but I still don't know how much delay we're doing
I
there.
appreciate it. Yeah, it's cool to hear different kind of aspects because like Sam, I haven't fished Winnie a lot. That'll change. Hopefully, we'll be on the ice together, get some
Yeah.
kind of experience. I've gone on Sebago a lot. In Lakers, not 100% really successful on the ice. Salmon, I've had awesome luck with. They're ambush predators. You're not working too hard unless they're not around.
Right.
And it's kind of hard because if you have other fish around, there's pike, if there's other competition, you're definitely gonna know it because this is not gonna be bait exactly like you were saying.
Yeah, it'll be gone.
Exactly. I use live bait. For trout, not really. Not really using live bait. Salmon, definitely. Right under the ice if they want to come there because they're chasing everything to the top. They're smart. They're just looking for the easiest kill.
Yes, for sure.
But Lakers, 100% opposite, I think, in my opinion. Live bait isn't really doing much for them. You're making more of a presentation than that fish is going to, especially if you're at 60, 80 feet. I was fishing Moosehead out of Greenville. We were deep. We were deep for Lakers, and we were really shallow for brookies. We had a couple tip-ups that were 3 feet under the water, and they produced a 3-pound brookie through the ice, which was a heck of a time. At 100 feet away, or 100 yards away, we were catching 21, 22-inch Lakers, but using 100% different techniques.
Yeah, they're just in different parts of the water column. And someone was asking me recently, why are brookies up shallow? And one of the things I saw at one of our brood stock lakes that we stock in the fall, you guys stock in the fall, is I had an underwater camera set up right on the beach, and I did a time lapse, not an intentional time lapse, but I usually scroll through every I think they're 15-minute or 10-minute clips. I scroll through it, and the bottom is moving. You can see all these little sticks moving in their caddis, right? Caddis or mayflies? Yeah, caddis. They're moving on the bottom, and that's what those brookies are up shallow eating, right? Lake trouts will do the same thing, but they can come up shallow. But that's my opinion on why brookies are shallow. They're pinning, smelt against the shoreline as much as they can.
Yeah, they're ambushing. Yep, that's a good point. I've noticed salmon, in my opinion, salmon are chasing straight up. Brookies chase towards, if you're between or even on a shoreline, where we were fishing, we were over by an island, and all the brook trout seem to be hugging that whole side.
Yep.
And I think it's because they kind of let them come in, and they're stealthy. And once they're in that corner, it's all on them. And they're eating. If you got a 3-pound brook trout through the ice, they're eating to eat. They're not. They're reactive, but they're also proactive. They're also chasing. So I think a big key to any lake trout is you're trying to be proactive because, like you said, they could not react. They could sit there and watch it.
Yep.
Or you have that guy that's on it.
Yeah, it's dependent. And I've seen some moves of fish change with weather and pressure and stuff like that. But I've seen also one fish come in and screaming hot and just tackle it. And I've actually in the fall, there's one specific lake that I fish. It's close to my house. There was 4 or 5 Lakers underneath me on live scope, and they were just being assholes. They would not eat. I was just changing lures. And then out of nowhere, this freaking honk of a freaking lake trout comes and spooks them all.
Yep.
For a bait this size, mind you. This is exactly what I caught him on. It was a 28.5-inch lake trout. Literally to eat a 1.5-inch bait, spooked all the small ones away just to slam my jig. Freaking sweet. I've never seen that before.
And he's traveling. He's not close if all those other ones around. He's cruising, and once he sees it,
he's cruising.
He's going to be on it.
And it was cool to see the ones in open water the other day. They were just cruising probably 5-10 feet underneath the ice. Most of the salmon I do see, especially in open water or at the thermocline and above, they're, even in the summertime, they're only 15-20 feet down. The ones that I do see, and the ones that I usually cast to, but I don't usually catch them, especially on camera, because they're freaking hauling ass so fast. And I don't troll. This is one of the advantages of trolling.
Yeah, I mean, we've had fish come up and hit the downrigger ball.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what are you doing? You're hitting it in on, like, it's not doing nothing for you, but they see it. You're catching their attention.
Yeah.
So sometimes you think bring your lure, your spoon up. All right, maybe it's gonna act like a dodger, and they still don't want it. It's whatever they want at the time. In night fishing, I've definitely seen that. I mean, I think it's harder to. I mean, in my opinion, I think it's harder to catch Lakers and trout ice fishing. In my opinion, just because it's harder to cover ground. Whereas if you're on a boat, it's funny because you're on a boat, you cast at shore. When you're on the shore, you cast where your boat is.
Yes. Yes.
So you're trying to find that spot on open water. I think is easier. Well, yes and no because you have more ground. But ice fishing, you have less ground that you can go after. If that makes any sense.
It does, and one of the reasons I really like fell in love with ice fishing is I grew up with video. I had PlayStation. I had Super Nintendo and PlayStation. Like I grew up playing video games in the outdoors. I didn't really fish that much when I was younger, a little bit. And then I got a Humminbird Helix, and I brought that on the ice and vertical jigging for any sort of perch. I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I can see the fish. I don't have to like cast blinding. I don't have to feel the bite. There's a few more things that you don't have to do when you're making a fish chase you on live scope or normal 2D imaging. Right, so I'm like, this is awesome. And then last year when I got live scope, you put live scope down the hole, I'm like, frick, there's a fish 50 feet over that way, and I can't cast him now. Like, this sucks. Like, it's taking away the, well, yes, I had to pick up and run over there 50 feet and drill a hole. That's awesome. But that was open water. I mean, I can stand and cast 100 feet around me and cover the water.
It's not as accessible.
Yeah. That's the thing. But one of the biggest problems is my biggest viewership is during ice fishing. My views almost triple during the ice fishing season because people are doing what we're doing now, sitting down and watching YouTube videos and BS. And
Exactly.
It gets dark.
I mean, your Burbot videos, I mean, they're definitely entertaining for sure.
Thanks.
It's good to watch. It's like I said, it's a learning curve. No matter what you're doing, it's always something different. And the technology now. I mean, I was fishing on Sebago, and we weren't doing great. My friend Dan came over, and he brought his setup, and he's like, "All right, well, there's your jig, there's my jig. Here comes the fish." And people think I don't know. You're fishing still. It just you see, like I said, it's almost you see more of what you're missing. And it's necessarily not a good thing.
Yeah, I want to have someone who's like fully against live scope on this kind of like podcast kind of thing, and just argue with them the whole time about it. Because what do you have for electronics? You have a boat or no?
I don't. I mean, I got a pontoon I use for bass.
Yeah.
But I used to have a trout. We use a little 15-foot, 16-foot. For trolling, and I use it for ice fishing. It's called the Deeper. It's kind of like an eye bobber, but it works.
I got one.
And honestly, it's pretty simple, but you can almost see everything that you're using. Like, kind of, you can use side image. You can kind of do everything.
Yep.
And I mean, you can see the bottom, and you can see kind of what's going on. And it's cool because you drill holes, you drop it in, it floats, you move.
Yeah,
you drop it in, it floats, you move.
Hold on, I got one right here. So Garmin actually makes one. It's part of the Striker series, and I bought one to do a video last year. And I'm like, I'm just gonna return it on Amazon. I'm like, this thing's freaking sweet. My buddy, I'm going to Pittsburgh. My buddy doesn't have a flasher or anything. I'm just gonna tell him to download the app on his phone, and put that on his phone. But yeah, the point I was trying to get at was, if I let you borrow live scope for a month, it would take your knowledge of how fish interact with your bait from 0 to like 110.
Really?
Like, it is just absolutely, like, even the interaction of seeing a lake trout come up and then miss, and then come up and then miss, and then come up and miss, and come up and miss. Seeing his tail and then seeing him go like this and then spin around and swim back down to the bottom, because he's like, I'm not swimming that close to the surface. Or having them hit the glass ceiling of a thermocline during the summertime, which you can see on 2D.
Yep.
But it is, if you just use it for a year, you could technically stop using it, right? You know, one of the Masters League guys, just, Bassmaster guys, he just won with 5 live scopes on his boat. Which is insane. He's a young guy, I think he's from Japan. He had one facing this way, which is perspective mode, 2 facing forward mode, and then he had one in the back of his boat, and then he had one for backup, right? And he was pinpoint casting to smallmouth on Champlain.
Yeah.
You know, it's a ridiculous piece of software and technology, and they're banning it in some things like that. I mean, I would never. Not that I would never. Like if I was muskie fishing and muskie's 10,000 casts, and like you're pinpoint casting to something like that, I'd be okay with them eliminating it in a tournament like that to make it fair for everybody. But the technology is still very expensive, so it's just I've learned so much because of it. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just because you can see the fish too doesn't mean you're on them. I mean that's another big thing too. It's tough because looking at ice fishing versus summer fishing, fish are a lot less active in the wintertime. I mean, I think it's just looking even in the stocking level when I was stocking them. I mean, the amount of food intake, the amount of energy they're using is a lot less. So I think the Panoptic and stuff like that, trying to target them and figuring out their activities, I think it's going to be a huge advantage because they're eating, I mean, even stock trout, I mean, they eat a quarter of what they eat in the summertime.
Oh, really?
I mean, you're feeding, say you got a pool of 5,000 fish. They're eating upwards of 45 pounds a day. Cut it down to wintertime, they're eating 10,
Gee,
15,
I didn't know that.
maybe. And I mean, it's not because it's just because we're cutting back. They cut back. They move slower. They're just lazy. So lake trout in the summertime, versus lake trout in the wintertime, it's a whole different animal too.
So here's a couple things that I've learned with live scope, especially this year, where I've spent a lot of time on the boat, except for the one month when my boat was down. So just Champlain as an animal in general, right? They're super aggressive, super hungry fish. They have alewives for bait out there. They do have smelt, but it's not as common. Summertime, they are just hot. Like they'll go. They'll chase you right to the freaking surface. Same with springtime. Any sort of like increasing water temp. No lake trout likes 32 degrees, right? And then it's cold as the water can get physically.
Exactly.
They still will race. I feel like they'll hit more of a dead stick. Like they're not, like let's say the summertime they're at 100%, they want to eat all the time. I feel like they're maybe 70% in the wintertime. Even on Winnipesaukee, they'll still hit a bait for the most part and chase as much as they want. I do feel like I haven't really compared the size of smelt. Like 19 Mile will fill from head to toe with smelt. The whole entire bait.
Yeah, they get kind of stuck in there almost, and
and like you can't even buy like in there because they're so focused on stuff. You really have to be outside of the bay and intercept fish coming into the bay, which is a tip for anybody who wants to go fish there in March, which is when we're going to freaking get ice. It's kind of. But I got a question for you. So people don't know, you work at which hatchery?
So I don't work there anymore. I was working at Powder Mill Hatchery in New Durham, which is right connected to Mary Meeting. And they produced about 300,000 fish per year, give or take. Rainbows, brookies, and browns. And even going there, like the fisheries, to bring it on topic, if you don't understand fish as much, even going there and looking at fish is interacting. I know people say stockies are different than wild fish. But all the stockies that are in your lakes are your fish that you're pretty much targeting. And it's awesome to kind of learn about them. I mean, the whole experience I had going and how they react in different bodies of water, like you were kind of saying, it definitely varies. I mean, you're going up north to somewhere small, or you're going somewhere big. I mean, Keezer Lake or something like that. Everything reacts different.
Yeah.
And the whole trout program, I mean, it's definitely good. It gets people on them. The whole thing is to get kids on into the sport, and for sure we need it. But learning kind of how different habits. I mean, even fly fishing. Fly fishing is an awesome way too to see how they kind of fish's activity kind of react. I mean, you got different ways to fish them. I mean, you can use dry flies, wet flies, bead heads, and the way they strike the water too. I mean, it's always different, I think, in where you are. I mean, if you got running water versus still water, they're never coming straight at it. There's thought behind it, not that you can see it. I mean, they're always evolving and changing. For
Yeah.
Sure.
So, what are you just doing tight bite tackle now full time?
So right now, I really want to. It's kind of tough.
You don't need to talk about this
I wanna
on
do-
live if you don't want to, by the way.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah,
Okay.
so I would love. About a year ago, I wanted to open up my own place, but it almost the money it takes the fun out of it. Like right now, there's this gentleman. So I sell at a bunch of tackle shops now.
Yeah.
I think he's like 14 or 16, somewhere in there. And Pier 19 is a huge display I made for him.
Yeah.
And they bought one of the swim baits I made, and he caught like an over 4.5 pound bass. And he was messaging me his parents, and he was the most happiest kid. I mean, he's sold. And
Yeah.
that right there, it would be awesome to do a big store, but the amount of overhead it takes, it's a lot. It takes the fun out of it. So right now it's a full-time, part-time job. I actually work for a water department now, full-time.
Like your town water department.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's what I do full-time, and then my full-time, part-time is tight by tackle.
Gotcha.
I mean, I get home and I'm in my workshop until sometimes 10 or 11 at night.
Ditto.
And the hard thing is I would love to do it full-time, and that's definitely gonna happen. It's just growing, like, word of mouth. I've been doing it for 2 years, which I'm in 23 states as of right now, which I could have never imagined that a year ago. And that's just by word of mouth and people talking to people, relationships. And I make going off topic. I make lures to catch fish, not people. It's tough. You can do a wicked cool design. You could put. I always go back to this guy saw. You can put a Bruins logo on anything.
I know. I was just gonna say Supreme, right, or something like that, a Rolex on the side of it.
So I mean, you can do cool stuff. I mean, but my end goal is I want to. And if I opened up a place or did a full time, I want to make sure I can still be customer driven. That's kind of like what I'm doing.
Yeah, a brick and mortar would be like you said, such a pain in the ass and so expensive.
They make it so you can't do it. I mean, the last place I was looking at, you needed 70 grand cash down. As a bait guy, $9 lures
Yeah, it's a lot.
doesn't add up that fast to 70. And I mean, like my tackle shops, I'm in Barry's Bait in New Durham, Pawtucket Trading Post. I'm in quite a few Tackle Shack, and you want to work with them too, because you want them to sell your product.
Right.
You don't want to just sell them to them and see you later. You want to build that rapport, and wholesale prices. You got to work with them. That money to get. I mean, you're dropping a little bit lower so you can kind of work all together.
Yeah.
And the amount of overhead I got's low because you make everything. I mean, there's some stuff you don't make, but there's also costs you don't see, like molds. I got $1,000 of CNC molds out there to sell 5 pack of worms for $4.
Yeah.
But
Is all your
that's-
plastics custom or no?
Yeah, so right now we do everything. So the one thing that we weren't doing that I don't use as much is the little pink trout worms.
Yeah, I have
I work
some,
with a
actually.
guy. Yeah, I work with a guy who does them for me because he does them. That's all he does.
Yeah.
So for us, it works out. He makes them for me. I tell him what I kind of want to do, and it's perfect because he's a small company. But now, I mean, we're doing all of our 5 1/4 Senkos. We're doing our stingers. We're doing. I was doing little swim baits, lizards. I mean, we're doing all that in house now, which is awesome
Gotcha.
because that's like painting. You can paint anything you want. Like I get painter's block sometimes, and it's tough because you don't know what you want to do, and then you come up with something that's different. And I don't know a lot of people from New Hampshire in general that do custom painting. I mean, airbrush stuff's hard. I'm not, on paper, I'm not artistic at all.
Me
But
either.
doing this, it changes it. I met a guy from Granby, Massachusetts at an expo, an older gentleman, I'd say in his 60s, and he's like, "Oh, I saw you do custom painting." He came back the next day with a bag of lures saying, "These are like my top producers. I've had these since I was younger." He's like, "Can you recreate them?" And I said, "I can get as close as I can." And the recreations I did are good, if not better than the originals. And
Nice.
just doing that, it opens up a whole new avenue. I mean, you're creating some people like, you know what, I have this lure I've had as a kid, but I can't find it. And me
Yep.
having the time to do it, it might take extra time, and people know that. Because I'm
But now
coming
you
up
get a
with
customer
something
for
that
life, though.
exactly. I mean, I'm cutting out templates for that one lure. I did a bunch of spoons for Champlain, and the guy's like, "Yep, these things produce. I only use these colors, and I use these designs." And I was able to do that, and I mean, it makes them happy, and that's all really for me. It's a business, yes, but it's not. It's about the relationships for me. I mean, yeah, you got to make money. Everyone's got to make money.
Yeah.
But it's connecting with people. Like I said, 23 states. I'm not out there advertising you don't see me spending hundreds of thousands of dollars doing it. I mean, Texas, other than New England, Texas, I'd say 15 different customers from Texas.
Really?
And they target, I mean, they're a lot of the people are bass, they're largemouth. So like my fire tiger pattern, I had a guy buy 4 of them at one time. 2 months later, he bought more of them. A different, like a plopper frog versus a crankbait. I have a guy, Dennis from Hope, Maine. He's a great customer. He did 1 order, and I think he's done 6. They're all spoons. They're all kind of different. He lets me he's like, "Hey, you're the expert. Kind of help me out." And it's nice too because customers don't always know what they want,
Yeah.
or they're looking for directions. That's why expos are nice. Like you talk to people, and you get advice from people. It's learning what they're looking for, and if I can make a customer out of you or a friend out of you, I mean, I don't sell to everybody I talk to, and that's just how it is.
Yeah. People want something that they're gonna buy it. You don't want to be super sales pushy, and that's one of the reasons that I don't want to do expos and stuff like that. Plus, it would take me probably a week to even make up enough stock.
Oh man, yeah, I'm starting
To get to an
now,
expo.
and I'm behind the game.
Yeah, I had people ask me in the Milford show last year, like, "You got any winning kits with you?" I'm like, "No." Like, you can buy it online. I'll give you a discount to buy it online right now if you want.
Yeah. Which, if you're thinking of something like that, I mean, we could always work something out too. If you want a little spot on the table, you put a little sign up or something and stand there, and it's all about getting the word out. I mean, we're a small group. I mean, for sure. And yes, you can buy tackle anywhere, but buying tackle you're talking to people about, it's definitely different, for sure.
Yeah, I got a question in the chat for you. Where do you see your business in 5 years?
So in 5 years, I see definitely just Tight Bite Tackle, full time. I want to open up a store to do everything. I want to be your kind of, I don't want to say mom and pop shop, but I want to have my own line, and I want to have bigger as well. So kind of trolling stuff, kayak stuff, but definitely Tight Bite fully. I want to be able to serve anybody at a certain time. I mean, right now the time constraints of what I have for time kind of hurts it a little bit. But in 2 years in 20 something states, it's just going to go up from there. The passion that I have for it, it's not stopping. It's definitely going to go up. But working with people like you, definitely sponsoring more people like Dan Hillier, Sungo River Service. He uses them all the time, and he puts them through their paces.
Yeah,
It's getting the name out, and
hundreds of customers going through him, right?
yeah, exactly. So I mean, he's got more business, and he knows what to do with. But he's another guy. He's not looking to. He's making money. It's a business, but he's out there to have a time with you. He wants to build relationships. Like we go out pike fishing with him, and it's just a time we go lake trout fishing. And we're not out there to look for fish. I mean, if we catch fish, that's what you want to do, but you got to connect with the customer. And like it's going back to me, 5 years, definitely. I'm hoping for 3 years. Tight Bite Tackle is kind of number one.
Yeah, do you got a number? I mean, you don't have to share the number, but do you have a number in your head of what you need to survive to do that? Because I mean, I have my, like, I had a 9 to 5 job before where I was making a lot of money. I'm nowhere near that even this year, even with my contracting work. Um, Luckily, my wife, who I have to praise every time I do a video, is supporting the back end of the channel. But do you have a number in your head, like this is how much profit I need to make to quit the day job?
So I have a lot of support as well. My fiance, she definitely loses sleep over stuff. I mean, she's helping, she's doing
Good.
labels, she's doing. It's good because it has to be. And honestly, the way this year went, if I can keep it up, plus the expos, I mean, if I can make 20% more, which isn't a lot, but it's enough.
Yeah.
If I can do that plus this year, I think I could definitely do it. And it's not, and I'm definitely not going to be making as much money as I could be,
Who
but it's
cares?
the passion for it. If
Yeah.
I'm making less and I'm doing this, I'd do it all day. I wouldn't bat an eye.
Yeah.
It's pretty much being able to do it. Because at that point, I'd want to do a store, even if I just do Type by Tackle. To be 100% honest with everybody, I'd be happy. I'd be just having a bunch of product inventory. Even if I can start doing jig rods and stuff like that, I would be 100% happy with just doing just our brand.
I wonder, this is weird. I wonder if like a food truck or something like that would be way more cost effective, because just brick and mortar is just such a pain in the ass.
That's the issue. Yeah.
So my old full-time job, I'm actually a man. I still do it part-time when they call me up and ask me to do stuff. I'm a manufacturing consultant, so I have a master's degree in helping small businesses in New Hampshire out. And they have a problem with rents going up and buildings breaking down and roofs leaking and stuff like that. But you could definitely hang all that stuff up in a not a creepy panel van, but like something that's all decked out, says Type by Tackle, and be like, I'm going to be at this boat launch in Alton Bay opening day.
Yep.
Like, I don't know how you probably have to work with that with the state, but you do something, even a enclosed trailer, like.
Yeah, I mean, if honestly, like I have a workshop I built. It's like a 9 by 12, so that's perfect for my space to make it. So honestly, if I had 1,000 square feet,
Yeah.
I mean, not even. I could do it in less than that. I mean, I'd be 100% happy. But yeah, stuff like that, like the Webster Lake Derby, meeting people there. So I'm sponsoring it this year, and it's to get youth there. And
Oh, yeah.
there was these people that were kind of getting flack because they usually sell shiners there, and the committee said no, Type by Tackle's going to do it. And I was getting messages from them saying, you're hurting us. This is what we do for money. And I'm like, you know what? I love doing this. So I'm like, you know what? Every youth gets a half a dozen free shiners from me all day. Like, I want to just do it. Like, I want to be there. Like, being in tackle shops, like, it's great to be somewhere. But I want to be able to be the one that's selling the product to them, if that makes any sense. Like,
No, yeah, it does,
online
yeah.
is nice because it's convenient. But I want to be able to be at a spot where people come in and I'm there, I'm making it, and I have my own store, which it's not out of reach. It's just making it all work.
Yeah.
So if I could open up a shop that's just us, I'd love that more than selling kind of other stuff. I mean, you can sell some stuff with it. You can sell some augers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But my end goal is 100% that sooner than later, because my big thing is I want to keep doing it for you guys, for customers, just like you. You're making videos because you're making it for you as well, but you want the people to not recognize you, but recognize the entirety of the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I started the channel to help and share, learn what I was learning as I was bass fishing and stuff. And then everybody's like, I wish, you get back from a fishing trip, you're like, I have 5 pictures. Like, I get to relive every moment that I did fishing that day. Yes, I've lost a lot of that's a big fish, because I've caught a lot of fish. Like,
Yeah.
a lake trout this big is not super exciting to me anymore. You lose that thing. But I took my 4-year-old son. Actually, he was 3 years old. Yeah, no, he was 3 or 4 at the time. 3 at the time.
Yeah.
I got him jigging his first lake trout using live scope off my boat with his Paw Patrol rod this summer on one of my baits that I designed and hooked up for him. And he's, he's holding the reel wrong. I'm like, just reel. And then he hooked up, and both of us were like, "What do we do now?" Because like it was just super funny. Like that's like sharing and coaching and doing that kind of stuff is just where it's at. It's just I was just trying to say like that brick and mortar thing's gonna be pain, but
yeah,
Sir,
that's what it's about.
I got a couple questions in the chat. Sir Altitude saying mobile tackle shack, and then Jake is asking what businesses carry your products in the store. You said it before, but you say it again because it was earlier.
Yeah,
the
so
chat.
I got a few around the state, and definitely it's growing. It's hard for me. Even that's another good thing is not having a permanent kind of spot to sell out of. Calling people to get the right person. It's hard because if I'm talking to the purchasing manager, that's 6 phone calls and 2 weeks later, so it's kind of tough. But I'm at Pier 19, right on Winnie. It's a great spot. And they didn't have any fishing gear.
Yeah.
They had no fishing gear, and I mean, if you're gonna be in that area and there's nowhere to go, that's why I built a huge display with a sign, so to let people know we're there. So that's a spot. I'm in Barry's Bait in New Durham. He's a great guy right at the Alton Circle. Pawtucket Trading Post in Raymond. He's Dale. He's great. He's another guy that he's doing it to make relationships as well. And he's definitely one of my favorite kind of to deal with because he's like, you know what? Let's do something different. Let's make something for us. And who knows if it works? It works. We'll know. We'll hear feedback.
Yeah.
Pinnacle. They have 2 spots. They're brand new. They have a spot in West Lebanon, in Newport.
Okay. Yeah.
They do hunting and fishing. I'm actually delivering 2 orders to them this weekend. They were awesome. All ice fishing, which is cool because ice fishing is kind of tough, as you know. So it's a lot smaller product that you're doing. So bass fishing, you got a bunch of lures that you're making. Ice fishing is definitely a lot more condensed. So coming up kind of with that designs with that is cool. And then Tackle Shack, they have 2, Meredith and Newberry. They're awesome people as well. I think that's it for right now. But I mean, we're growing every year. And that's great. I want to be out there in shops. It feels great. But in hindsight, I want to be at a store of my own doing it too, because I want to have those relationships. I'm getting relationships through tackle shops for sure.
Yeah.
But being able to interact the whole time is definitely would be awesome. Mobile tackles, that's a pretty cool idea actually. If you can go to where the people are.
Yeah, I mean, we need Derby. So I don't know what the state would say about that. It's just in the meantime, like an enclosed trailer. Like I've been looking at an enclosed trailer for all my ice fishing stuff is like $2-3 grand. I mean, people just need one anyways. But I don't know what the state would say. Like, oh, can I just park in the Alton Bay, like which is obviously the state-owned public ramp or something like that, and have it all nicely lit and have all your shit in there.
Yeah, it's tough. Even bait. I mean, I sell shiners, and you need a different license for wholesale versus retail.
Oh, really?
And yeah, so from retail's $27, wholesale $76.
Yeah.
So depending how you look at that, so say if you're Joe that owns Joe's Tackle, so if I sell it to Joe's Tackle, that's wholesale. If I sell it to Joe, is that considered retail because it's not Joe's Tackle?
Yeah, I gotcha.
And because technically it goes off of your business address. So like I got okay to do like Webster, but it's through like a committee, so it's a little bit different. So if I go to a random spot and start selling tackle, or not tackle, but like bait, it's a product. So because that van technically might be your address, and you can't really have a permanent address with that. It's kind of tough.
Yeah, but maybe. Well, there's got to be some loophole in there. It's kind of like a food truck, right? I mean, it's kind of like the same thing as setting up for a farmer's market.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a product.
But I think you need a
made
permit to
elsewhere.
do that.
It's like an expo, I guess, if you look at it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, the product's not made there technically. I mean, even if it is, you're selling it to a consumer.
Right.
So there's definitely some way around that. Yeah, it would be awesome to have a store like Tight Bite would be my ideal store, just us, because you can expand even that way. I mean, have stuff like you there,
Yeah.
And it'd be that much more of a relationship for everybody because I love talking to people and stuff on the phone or websites. See people send pictures in. I mean, I love it. You see pictures of kids catching stuff and guys be like, I haven't caught nothing over here and ever. Like, that's awesome.
I get the same
But
thing.
like that, I mean, I always tell people, like, you kind of have a feel for people. Hey, if you catch something with this, take a picture, I'll send you a hat. And
Yeah.
they're like, what, really? And it's because it's awesome. I mean, it's helping me by advertising, but it's also showing me like I just took 40 minutes. I wasted 3 blanks because the humidity was wrong, and I came out with this finally. Yeah, I can't fish with it because I'm so busy doing this. So if you can do it,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Because I didn't have anyone teach me. I mean, it was all self-taught. Like it's still self-taught. Like going back in, and it's just awesome to see somebody else. It's awesome to catch it with your stuff by yourself, but somebody else. I mean, it means a lot. Especially like, I mean, catching Lakers and stuff like that, where they can be finicky, like we were talking about. It's just, it feels good for sure.
I've had a lot of people contact me. Well, so I've shipped. I don't know how many states I'm in right now because I have the 2 websites. But I shipped something to Florida. I've shipped to Tennessee before. I'm like, and the customer from Tennessee emailed me. I'm like, what are you fishing for with these? It's like we have one reservoir that has enough dissolved oxygen at 100 feet. There's actually lake trout in Tennessee.
Wow.
Who freaking knew that?
I never know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. It says we jig for them all the time. Like, it'd be the last place I wanted to like go to Tennessee to go jig for lake trout. So yeah, it's awesome. I shipped to Alaska. I shipped to Sweden, and this is I messaged you before. I shipped to Sweden, and then it came back. Actually, it never made it there, and then it went to Brazil, and then it got lost, and then it came back to my house. Because their stuff is stuff I ship to Canada quite often. It's kind of cool, and I get even a guy that's been fishing no fish newbie for years, and he's trying to get his son to go catch one. He's giving his son a bucktail, and not catching anything. He gives him one of my little tungsten. My son just got his first lake trout within 10 minutes.
Small and simple. I had people. I sent out ice jigs to Nevada. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
all right, that's odd because he's not far out of Vegas, and he sent me a picture back. He was ice fishing.
Really? Oh yeah, this
If
high
you go
elevation
up
stuff.
high enough, the mountains are frozen, and I'm like, what? And they had, I'd say 14. I still have the picture. 14 or 16 trout sitting there. I'm like,
Yep.
and that's awesome because I think of Vegas. I'm not thinking of cold.
No, yeah, I've got a lot of orders out there, and the thing is, I Google sometimes, like you're not supposed to, but I Google their address. I'm like, what pond are these guys fishing? And sometimes they'll email me like, hey, I've been trying to. I guess you got one in the last live stream. I've been trying to catch a lake trout in this lake for years. Can you just, I'm like, give me the name of the lake, and I'll pull up Navionics, and I'll give you a couple spots, and if you catch one, let me know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's all feedback. I mean, especially like you said. I love it. If you're taking pictures, you're taking videos. I mean, it's cool to see it because we don't know. I mean, if you're catching, like you said, you're catching somewhere in Tennessee, you would never think that. And now, who knows? If you're in Tennessee and you kind of talk to them, you could go catch them in Tennessee. You know what I mean? But your lure caught a fish in Tennessee, a lake trout even.
Yeah,
In the dirtiest water state. I mean, like. You would never think that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that's like an impoundment. It's dammed up, like a river that's dammed up. I mean, I've sold striper flies to inland, like landlocked stripers, and I forget where it was. I think it might have been in Tennessee too. But I got 2 questions for you. Are there any new products coming this year? And then someone was saying the address issue is primarily so you can be served notices and receive legal notices. And that kind of crap. Think of it as a corporate office versus store location. Usually a post office box is sufficient or a legal address. So you'd have to ask the state about the mobile thing. Especially like your stuff is so trolling based. I mean, you can just bounce around from boat launch to boat launch, do the Songo. I mean, maybe you have to do something different. But any new products coming out this year for you?
So the newest ones that came out for me were my plated spoons that have my name etched on them. So like I said, that's a different design completely that is around. So that's awesome because in 10 years, if you look into the tackle box, it says Tight Bite Tackle on the bottom.
Yeah, you know where to go to.
So that was our biggest this year coming. My bucktails are new. I'm going to start doing marabou hair jigs.
Yep.
Just trying to work in with everything that's kind of going on. That's going to be probably Expo. I'd say the Milford Expo they're gonna have, and the Springfield will be the first at. And then branching off, I mean, flies. I'm doing flies now. I'm starting to tie pretty much every start A to start B. We're doing it all. The
Jeez.
biggest for the spoons. I definitely want to get into. I'm gonna do some jointed baits. They're like ribbon, kind of like a ribbon S tail, I think they call them. So kind of just branching off into blanks that I get into. Because I buy a bunch of blanks and I paint them, but I kind of want to expand that there as well. My big thing I'd love to try to do is like the big name frogs. They're like the plastic kind of case with the two hooks coming out of the back.
Yeah.
That would be $1 million design if I could try to figure out how to do it. I've been kind of looking into it.
At a plastisol?
Well, see, the plastisol is solid, so these are hollow bodies
Yeah.
with just like a cavity on the outside. Plastisol would be easy; you just do a mold. But I'm trying to do a hollow body.
Well, you could design it like a tube.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'd kind of be like a tube. Exactly. You can have that rod in there.
Well, yeah, you have to. Well, the rod would have to collapse though. So yeah, I went to engineering, so I'm already designing the mold in my head. And I actually got a friend, acquaintance of mine, who's actually designing me a special tube to add to my product mix, because I just added tubes and I want to add a different style tube.
Yeah, so like I said, these spoons are definitely the biggest. In kind of designs, it's nice for tackle shops. I kind of keep a catalog a little simpler.
Yeah, sure.
Because if they're ordering, say, $1,000 worth, and you have 50 different patterns, it gets hard. You got to clean the airbrush every single time.
Right.
I mean, some of the big swim baits or jerk baits, I'm doing 7 colors. So if you're doing 100 different ones, you're going through paint, you're going through a bunch of stuff. So kind of perfecting some stuff. I'd love to, like, the hair jigs are coming. That's going to be here, let's say, February is my next expo in Springfield, and that's my first expo there. So those are going to show up there. The bucktail jigs, people love. I've been meaning to do them. People love whitetail buck jigs for.
It's a staple,
like,
man.
I mean, use white, put a little red flasher boo like these, and I mean, people love them. I'm doing pink and yellow. It's good. It's coming up with new product. You got to evolve. Like just like the Sutton spoon idea, the half and half I have. That I had no recollection. I never would have known 30 years ago. But talking to these people, and they live by them, and they were bringing them back. They came back the next day with these spoons from 19. Who knows how old they are? They're rusty. They've gone through everything and back, and they're still using them. So these spoons are definitely my big thing for the year. But always evolving, and I love to hear people like you or even customers, something that they see, even if it's not stuff they have, but they see out in the market. I mean, they see there's new stuff every year, like swim baits now. You never saw the big brands make them, and people are on them, and now they're starting to make them. Berkeley just came out with a swim bait.
Oh, really?
So it's kind of changing. I mean, I'm not looking to get into the $600 swim bait. I'm not.
No, yeah.
I can't throw a truck payment into the wall. I just can't do it.
And
I people swear by him. I know Adam Montani. He does bass fishing semi-professionally. He has a bunch of expensive swim baits, but he also, like I sent him some spoons, and he was catching. I think they call it like a 38 or 40-inch pike. I mean, it's all simple stuff that you can do. You're just evolving, and that's the biggest thing is feedback.
yeah, and the biggest thing that I've seen is you got to have, like, your stuff is kind of, well, your niche, like your top, like you said, your top seller niche is your spoons. And I'm also working with, Circle Tackle, and him and I every once in a while have like a 1 hour impromptu conversation, kind of like this, where it's like, all right, what are you selling the most of? And this is what I do with my customers. So like, what are you selling the most of? Do you need to double down on that, or do you need to branch out to make more things? Like, I personally don't like fishing for lake trout with tubes. They're just not super effective for me when I'm fishing in New Hampshire because a lot of our bait's smaller. But lake trout is a staple for, our tubes are a staple for lake trout. So I added it to my mix, and I have sold a bunch of them, right? I mean, I don't use them a bunch. I've used them in one video that I haven't edited or released yet from Sebago. But it's like, you're doing a lot.
Yeah, that's the thing. I kind of run it. That's a good thing. Like, do I branch into more? That's the thing. If what I have is working and I'm busy now and it's producing, I don't want to branch out. I don't want to just branch up. Just maybe expand, do a little bit stuff different. But like right now, like even the bucktails, I just did it because it was kind of customer driven. But I'm not looking for the next thing right now. I'm just kind of perfecting what I have because the niche is small. I mean, custom people. I know a lot of companies that'll say custom tackle or blah blah blah, and you can see that they buying them right off Alibaba and stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah, for
customers
sure.
see that.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing. Like, I might not have a huge selection of stuff. Like, my big thing is like, I
Way
won't
bigger than my
have-
selection.
Yeah, I won't have 100 colors of Cinco's. Like, you'll go on there, you'll see 4. I've made probably 40,
Right.
but it's custom orders. It's off the whim. I made some of those soft plastics the other day by Complete Accuracy. They came out. I did it backwards. I was splitting them to make green and or chartreuse and pink, and
Yeah.
they ended up mixing because I wasn't quick enough with the new mold, and they came out to be. It's an awesome color. So stuff like that. I mean, it's not intentional, but it ends up coming out to be a positive. Like, I mean, like I said, I started from doing nothing. Like, I do lure tape. I met a guy salmon fishing in New York. I go every single year, Salmon River.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's crazy. You're catching 30-pound salmon, which is unreal.
Yeah.
But I was just talking to this guy. He was having way better luck than me. And it was like 8 in the morning, and we were just talking about what we do. And he's like, yeah, I kind of do some stuff. I have a CNC machine and kind of do stuff like that. And a CAD programming. I'm great with it. I'm like, oh, really? He's like, I love to do like a custom lure tape. And I'm like, all right. So I'm like, so I started looking into it, and this guy will do custom lure tape for me. So I do, like these silver ones, I have applications where it's custom lure tape works, but it's custom to me, and I'm applying correctly.
Right.
So it's the same avenue of painting. It's just a different, because some of the shine I get, you can't get it with paint. It's just not gonna
No, you
happen.
can't. No. For
Like,
sure.
I have a pink diamond that I think this year's my biggest seller. I think I've sold over probably 300 units of just that one spoon.
Which one is
It's called Pink Diamond.
it? Oh yeah, I saw it there.
And that, I mean, Sebago is produced, in Rangeley it's produced, New Hampshire it's produced, and that is just, in person, it changes color almost. It's kind of like a blue, and bait fish do that. Smelt, if you look at a smelt from the front versus the back of the side,
Yeah,
they
they're
all
iridescent.
change.
They
You see a
change color.
bloodline, but if you look around that bloodline, they all change.
And
But
apparently
something like that.
they have a pink tinge in the springtime. Is that true?
Yeah, I 100% get that, and sometimes it's off the food around them too. I mean,
yeah. Oh no, that makes sense because they're feeding off the same thing as trout do, which makes their meat pink, right?
exactly. Yep. Yeah. So it changes it all, and that one lure right there, kind of. I said, hey, I want a silver kind of pattern, and I want this and that. I mean, that has been a crazy producer of a spoon, and I never would have thought. I mean, I know when I think of salmon, I think of pink for sure. I definitely use pink.
Yeah.
And this has been working for brookies, browns, rainbows. Wonder Bread, I have awesome luck with salmon. And that's a whitish, and I would almost think Lakers would hit that more, and just kind of looking at patterns. But I mean, definitely caught Lakers on it. But the biggest salmon that we caught at that shootout, we caught 2 big ones. It was on that pink diamond and that white one, and it's just weird because you'd think you'd catch more Lakers on white. In my experience, I mean, you're way more experienced in Lakers than I am, but it's kind of give and take.
Yeah, I think if you're matching profile, the color doesn't really. If you're matching profile and you're matching what the thing's supposed to be doing, and you're catching a lake trout in the right manner, I don't think color matters at all. That's my personal opinion. I do sell 3 colors.
Speed, yeah, trolling speed is like number one. So we kind of figured that's another thing we're doing lures, kind of figuring out what different speeds they're looking the best at. So my spoon's like 1.8 to 2.1 is like perfect.
Yeah.
And with these different ones, it's going to be actually it's going to be probably a little bit slower tolerance. You probably get down like 1.5, which people might think 1.5 versus 1.8 is not big, but it's a pretty big change, especially for a fish that might not want to go after it,
Right.
or the fish that's way active, they might be at the higher end of it, 2.1.
Yeah, and super active. Now, someone just asked if you do just completely custom work for plastic and lures. And I'm guessing your answer is yes, right?
Yep. So I can do pretty much anything. That's one thing it's tough to market everything. But my big thing is custom made New Hampshire. So if you come to me saying, "Hey, I want this color," I've done a bunch of matches, so I can airbrush it. Soft plastics, if I have the same idea of a mold,
Right.
it's definitely doable. I mean, because there's thousands of different things, and molds are expensive. So if I were to
They
do
are.
a custom profile or custom like frog or something, it's a little different. But anything that I already have for soft plastics, I can do. But pretty much unlimited for what is on the market, because anything that you can buy, there's pretty much a knockoff of it somewhere else, and I can buy that and recreate it as much as I can.
Yeah.
For sure. And that's my big thing is, I mean, if you can go to a company and say, "Hey, this is what I want," and recreate it. After this, I'll post. I'll try to tag you in it. I'll post, or I'll send it to you if you want to post it. Those 5 lures that I custom matched. I mean, I went through
Yeah, sure.
various websites. I mean, you got lip sizes, you got deep divers, you got shallow divers, and I can match pretty much anything like that. Cost is a little bit different if something I'm not doing all the time. But 100% custom is what I kind of strive for, because it's a challenge every single day. I can make my 10 designs, and I'm pretty good at it. If I can make something different, that's kind of where the fun is for me.
Well, I want a spoon that matches my bait. It has a chartreuse head, chartreuse like quarter, like a little strip in the front of it, and then it's
Yep.
glow. And you do any glow spoons or no? You do glow spoons, right?
I do. It's metal is hard to kind of get a glow because you can use powder
Yeah, that's what I
or you
use for
can
some stuff.
use paint. Sometimes powder. I mean, when you're doing powder, it's a buildup. It creates a hump.
Right.
Whereas if you're doing spray, it's all depends on how the spray reacts with the clear coat. And sometimes it reacts with it, and sometimes you go to do it, and a day later the whole paint's bubbled off.
Then
but
you
yeah,
sell it as crackle finish, and then you clear coat it again, right?
To be honest, so sometimes it's really weird. If you get water in the paint, white is very watery to spray. And some of my, like I do mice. Mice are a huge hit. They work awesome. People love them for bass, pickerel, stuff like that. I sell a crazy amount, and I have awesome luck with them. And a lot of customers have luck with them. But there's this one I did. It's a white mouse with red eyes and pink ears. And
I think I
for
saw
one
it.
reason, this batch, there must have been water in the line, a little more water than there usually is, because when you're compressing air, you're creating water. And
Yeah.
it made like a crack. It started to crackle on the bottom. But what I did was I cleared it again, and it actually looked good. It was different. It was kind of a mistake, but it worked awesome. It's caught fish. I've got pictures of it with it.
Yeah, so you can. I think I saw that. Well, I saw one of them mice or rats, whatever we made before.
Yeah.
But you can buy a compressor dehydrator, by the way.
I have
Do you have one?
4 filters on mine right now.
Really, and it's still giving you water?
Yeah, because I mean, you're compressing air. You're gonna get water inevitably.
Yeah.
But I have a new tank set up, which it's pretty nice. It's tolerable. So another thing is, in the wintertime, I get propane heat. Propane heat is humidity. I mean, some days I'm out there, it's 90% humidity.
Oh, jeez.
And if you're trying to clear coat, it's pretty much, it's like rubber at that point.
No, yeah, I have the same issue with plastisol and moisture and having stuff cure. I didn't have an issue until it effing rained every day. But we've been doing that this for almost 2 hours, which is my longest one yet.
Yeah.
But we got 11 people on right now. Let's give everybody like 2 more minutes to ask some questions. And I'm trying to turn my monitor away. I don't think that's how it works. So my speakers are in my monitor, and then that's what's giving us echo. So I just asked that question on the chat, and we'll have to troubleshoot for next week and figure out why it's doing that.
But yeah, I mean, making baits, I have experience at it, but you have tenfold experience more at fishing. Like, I mean, when I'm looking at your videos, if I could catch one of the lakers you catch in a year, I mean, I'm retiring. I mean, I'm going to call it a win, and maybe won't fish for a week, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll take you out on Winnie or wherever we get ice at this point. Get you over.
I mean, the techniques. I mean, you started from nothing. I mean, I talk to people all the time, like telling people about the stream. I say go check him out. I mean, expert's a hard thing to use. I mean, but in the avenue you're using, you're on the way to be. I mean, thinking about New England, I mean, you got a couple people that stand out. I mean, you got Joe Holland that does good. I mean, he ice fishes.
Yeah.
Main trout whisperer, you got him. But then you, I mean, third, thinking about it, I mean, for lake trout, you're number one. And I mean, even talking to people in the community for sure.
Awesome.
And that, I respect that. I mean, even just you talking to us and meeting and stuff like that, it's the amount of time it takes you is far more tenfold to what anybody else does.
Yeah, what people don't see is that 8-minute video is 8 hours of fishing. So it's like, oh, I caught fish back to back to back, which sometimes happens. It does. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. And also, I've gone out and grinded all day, and those videos don't make it. Like I'm in the process of editing a video right now. I just did an export, and I have to go back through it to keep people more entertained. And I'm trying to get better and better at my editing and talking on screen and doing all this stuff to keep audience retention up. This video has no fish in it. I'm releasing it anyways because there's no ice to be around right now, which I don't want to do. And I have pressure from sponsors and stuff like that to get out there and get content, like Snow Dog. Where am I going to drive a Snow Dog right now besides Pittsburgh? Like, it just can't.
You can't. And safely. That's another thing with you. I mean, you gotta you're juggling a lot, which how long it take you to do? So if you do 4 hours of content, does it take you at least an hour to edit it? I would imagine.
Oh, more than that.
Yeah. So I mean, the time it takes behind the scenes. I mean, even you driving or packing the truck or charging batteries or finding spots. I mean, you probably have 20 hours of work for 2 hours of fishing.
Yeah, there's packing ahead of time. I got to dump cards. If you look at my office right now, it's pretty much trashed. Like I have boxes in the back. I have work clothes and maps and all sorts of stuff. And I'll spend, Ryan McCarthy and I, we want to call him friend co-angler. We spend 2 hours on the phone looking for a pond to fish. Look, like this one's high elevation, but it's a half an hour walk in, and this one's this, and then it might have wild trout in it. Just to get those kind of different videos for New Hampshire, and you and I need to chat about that. Not tonight though. Some other day. It's if I go out and film for 8 hours. If I'm in my boat, I'll run a camera the entire day. And so 8 hours of fishing is a minimum of 6 hours of editing. Like I have to review footage, find footage, match up my audio pack because I don't want wind noise. And try to build a story out of that, and then I have to drive home, and then I'm exhausted, so I can't do it that night. I have to do it the next day. So it's usually
while not losing fish. I mean, sometimes I wear a GoPro. I'll just hit it just so you can see it. And just in that 5-minute span, I lost the fish because I'm fumbling to do all this stuff. And I mean, like watching your overnight, or not your overnight, but your late night burbot stuff. I mean, there's just stuff going on all the time. You don't know. I mean,
that's a nightmare, by the way. It's super fun to edit. Like it's actually fun to edit after the fact. But when you have, like, I just filmed the rainbow trout underwater snapper videos with my cameras. I had 3 underwater cameras, 2 GoPros, a Sony camera. That I didn't fly the drone that day, and an audio pack. So if you look at my timeline on my thing, it's stacked huge. I mean, that video did not do well. But it took me freaking 6 hours to edit the damn thing. And it's just what it is. But we gotta, I have to go.
Well, definitely, I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on.
Everything about it. Thank you for meeting me. We'll have to do, maybe next time we'll do a 20-minute quick rapid fire lightning conversation. But hopefully ice turns around at some point here. We'll get out and maybe you'll make some video, appear on a video or...
Yeah.
Your knowledge, I appreciate it because all the videos you do are not just for you, and that's big for New England. I mean, especially New Hampshire, because Winnie is such a diverse place, and I know you target Winnie, and it's a hard place to fish.
It is a hard place to fish, and I failed a bunch, and I got it. Haven't completely got it figured out, but I got it figured out enough to share it with people, and that's what everybody's like. This is fantastic. I go up there all the time, and I never catch fish. So, thank you guys for tuning in. This is the longest live stream. I think maybe not the longest live stream I've ever done. I've done live burbot fishing. That might have been over 2 hours. But yeah, thanks for coming on at last moment. I literally asked Hunter yesterday, I think, to come on because Maine Trout Whisperer was sick because he was planned for today, and last Thursday was supposed to be Precision Angling, who I fished with before out of Maine as well. But he had no power because of these effing storms that keep happening. So tune in for next week. It'll be one of those two guys for next week, and then you and I will have to chat some other day about remote trout ponds and stuff like that, so I can go ice fishing.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get together. Maybe we'll do grab you for an expo or something like that.
Yeah.
I appreciate everybody on your side watching too, and it was a great time. And hopefully, we got some positive people answer some questions, and hopefully, the ice gods are listening to us, and we can get out there.
I hope so. All right, thanks, guys. Good night. And I gotta figure out if I can't end stream there. End stream.